Hi, I'm Scott Davis, and welcome to New World Birth. By accessing this presentation, you're inviting me to share this information regarding our passage through this challenging and very hopeful time. And this is the November neutrino forecast for 2013. Back in May, I began to include the Human Design Neutrino Forecast in my regular feature called Care and Feeding of a New World Age Report that airs every 13 days. But with the growth of both the reports, I was invited to rework the neutrino forecast into its own presentation. This November 13 report thus represents the first solo flight of this offering. For those of you who are new to the system, I thought I'd share some information. Human Design was the fruit of an 8-day revelation by Ra Uru Hu back in 1987, which yielded the design of forms of which human represents one of the forms. And if you enjoy a great story of the descent into madness and return, I highly recommend watching Encounter with the Voice, which I believe is available for streaming on the jovianarchive.com website. So the human design system analyzes the flow of matter and energy in the neutrino ocean, and it was revealed at the time of that a supernova, the death of a star through a vast explosion, the energetic from that reached the Earth, and it increased the neutrino density by 3 times for a period of about 14 minutes. And human design is based on 4 ancient wisdom systems as a bridge to understanding our potential to discover our path in making decisions that are correct for us each as individuals. And those traditions are astrology, the I Ching, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and the Kabbalistic tree of life. And you're probably wondering how these systems all work together in human design. Well, we start by looking at the sun and the moon and the nodes and the other planets in the wheel here, as we would in astrology, except instead of relating them to zodiological constellations and each other by the angles that they make, we're looking at them in relation to the hexagrams of the I Ching. And this is a little blown up one of the same graphic, and you can see these stacks of lines on the outside. These represent the hexagrams, and what happens is they then get mapped to specific locations. For instance, if we look at this design here, we can see we have the sun here in the 44th gate at the beginning of November, which gets mapped over here to the 44, also noted 44 here in the splenic center. Anyway, the shapes inside the body graph are called centers, and what they represent is that we've gone through a mutation from having 7 chakras, which is what this represents here, and many of us are very familiar with the 7 chakra from the Hindu Brahmin system, to having 9 centers. And this mutation, this change took place back in 1781, coincidental to Herschel's discovery of the planet Uranus. And then the pathways between the centers are called channels, and they're from the Kabbalah. And for these reports, I primarily use these texts. I use Ra Uru Hu's complete Rave I Ching and circuitry, a complete guide to circuits, channels, and gates by Richard Rudd, and incarnation crosses, also by Ra Uru Hu. And we left off our exploration into human design with the one key or wisdom care feeding of a New World Age video. So I'm going to basically cover the time from October 26th to the 31st to bring us up to date for the November neutrino forecast. So we had Venus was in the 26th hexagram over here. And we had the North Node and Saturn in the 44th hexagram. So right at the end of that last report, we had the channel of surrender. We had it until the 28th of October. And this is the design of the transmitter. This conditions us to believe that we have the instinct for knowing how to present anything to anyone and get our message recognized. This channel definition works best when it's invited, because when somebody asks, then they've really opened their aura to what it is you wish to share. This can be manipulative, and folks who have this in their rave charts are the type of folks who really have great sales skills. They can sell ice to Eskimos. And during this time period, we're all more convincing in our presentation, whether it be a message, a product, or a truth, with the aim to get paid more for doing less. But once this moves on, then, you know, we get conditioned by it. We think, okay, we are that, and then all of a sudden we realize we're not. So just we're going to be aware of that. Yeah, just real quickly, all these black strips of paper on here, they represent the gates that are being activated by the sun, the planets, and the nodes, regardless of whether they form a channel. So I'm not gonna follow the moon in this demonstration because it moves so fast. It activates 3 to 4 gates in a day. And the first change to the transits was back on October 28th, when Venus moved out of the 26 over here. And in doing so, we no longer have this channel, so we no longer have this definition between of the ego center or the splenic center. And where Venus moved to is up here in the 11th gate, and up in the Ajna center. And then on the 29th, Mercury retrograde is moving backwards from our perspective here on Earth. It moved from this first gate down to the 44th gate. But very interestingly, on that exact same day, Saturn moved from the 44th gate up to the first gate. So they just passed each other like ships in the night. And then on October 30th, Uranus, which again is retrograde, it's moving backwards from our perspective on Earth. So it's moving backwards here in the wheel, which is not the direction planets normally move. So what happened here is Uranus went from, it's been in the 21 for a long time, and it went back to being in the 17. So we will put the gate up here in the 17. The 21 is no longer defined. And it's interesting when I think about this, the 17th gate is about opinions. And I remember experiencing a great deal of unexpected opinions between people that I was observing or around, which in some cases led to arguments when Uranus was last in the 17th. Also on the 30th, the sun moved from the 28 here into into the 44, joining Mercury and the North Node in that gate. And because the sun and the Earth move as an axis, the Earth moved out of the 27 and joined the South Node up here in the 24, up in the Ajna center. Which is where the sun and the Earth are at the beginning of November. And quickly I'll just run these down. The sun is mapped into the 44th hexagram, so it's in that opening that's called the gate. The 44th gate is called Coming to Meet. It's located in this upper edge of the splenic center. It's in a tribal energy path called the Channel of Surrender, which we just talked about when it was connected over here to the 26th. I really found that human design is amazingly accurate, and I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings at this point. And so we have all these following hanging gates or potentials at the beginning of November. Like I said, we have the sun, the North Node, and Mercury in the 44th gate. We have the Earth and the South Node up here in the 24th. We have Venus in the 11. We have Mars over here in the 40th gate of aloneness. Jupiter is down here in the 53, wanting to begin something. Saturn is up here in the first gate of being creative. Uranus is up here, like we said, stimulating people to have opinions. Neptune is in the very spiritual gate of 55, and Pluto down here is working its way through figuring out what's been spoiled and how are we going to make that correction. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be really helpful if you know your human design chart, because some of these transits form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com, clicking on the button that says Get Your Free Rave Chart, and enter into your birth information. So on November 1st, we have the Sun in the 44th hexagram, which the Rave I Ching describes as the success of any interaction is based on the absence of precondition. It's in the second line, which is called management, the possibility that alertness to patterns will result in management capabilities. And until 2:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, when it shifts to the third line, which is interference. This is the failure to interact based on circumstances with various levels of alertness and instinct to handle the egos of others. And then on the second, the Sun moves from the third line up to the fourth line of the 44 at 1:02 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where the Sun is detrimented. And this is described as honesty and the refusal to engage in hypocritical interactions, but for self-sustainment, the sacrifice of indifference for survival. So basically, this energetic where we may have to accept help from forces that maybe we previously rejected. And then November 3rd, Mercury retrogrades, and it leaves this 44th gate and moves down here to the 28th. So, and this is this is moving in the opposite of the way the Sun was moving through these. Mercury's moving backwards from our perspective here. And Venus, also on November 3rd, moved from the 11 up here to the 10, coming out of the G center, and then we also have movement from Mars. It's left the 40th hexagram here and gate, and it's moved up to the 64 up here, coming out of the head center. Make that a little cleaner, somewhat. Anyway, and so on the 3rd, that's the Sun then moves into the 5th line of the 44th hexagram. And that happens at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and typically a line change takes approximately approximately an hour and 40 minutes earlier than the previous day. But due to the change from daylight savings time to standard time here in the U.S., the time is an hour earlier. And the Sun in the 44.5 is called manipulation. It's the recognition of patterns that lead to the possible manipulation of others. And then the big news, though, for the 4th is that Pluto moves from this 58 up to the 38. So it was there previously, it is now back, and up here in the 38. We get a channel and gives us a defined route, connecting up to a defined splenic center. And Pluto's going to be there to stay for a long time. It's connecting to the 38, which is from the 38 up to where Mercury is. Again, it's in a 28 here. And this gives us the channel of struggle, which is going to be affecting us until November 18th. And this is unusually long due to Mercury's retrograde cycle, because it's going to be moving in reverse, and then it comes to a stop, and then it slowly starts to move forward, and all that happens in the 28th hexagram during this time period, which it brings us experiences where this channel of struggle brings us experiences where people struggle against overwhelming odds. And it's through this archetypal hero's journey of fighting for our purpose that empowers others to stubbornly fight for what holds meaning for them. And this is about empowerment that comes from being who we're meant to be, instead of following the conditioning of our families and schools, religions, governments. It's an individual channel, which those individual channels are said to be deaf. They do not hear the other and become distracted from their authentic path. Also on November 4th, the sun moves into the 6th line, the very top of the hexagram here, the roof, and the sun of the 44th hexagram, that happens at 8:57 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 44-6 is aloofness. It's an awareness of the patterns which ensure one's instinctive well-being. And now, then we move on. November 5th, the sun moves out of the 44. So we're no longer in the 44, and it joins Saturn up here in the first hexagram. And the Earth moves out of the 24 and moves down into the second here, second hexagram, second gate, which is about drive, and this happens at 7:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and with the sun in the first gate of self-expression, the creative, it's the creation is a primal force, the energy, potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. In the first line, its creation is independent of will, self-expression through special timing and also through patience. And then the sun moves into the second line of the first hexagram on the 6th at 5:49 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is keynoted as love is light, self-expression conditioned by the ideals and values or desires and passions. So that's kind of the positive, is we're being conditioned by ideals and values. The negative would be that we're being conditioned in our self-expression by our desires and passions. This really shows the difference, how close a detriment and exaltation can be in their definition, because to me those are very close in their definitions. So anyway, then on November 7th, the sun in the first hexagram moves into the third line at 4:14 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is the energy to sustain creative work, a deep need for self-expression that can be disrupted by materialism. And then the 8th, the sun moves into the fourth line of the first hexagram, so it's up here in the line of the opportunist, and that happens at 2:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is described as aloofness, as a medium of creativity. That creativity must develop outside of the influence, and it can really be limited by the need to have influence. And then the 9th, Venus moves from the 10 to the 58, and which is down here. And then the sun also moves into the 5th line up here, the heretic of the first hexagram, and that happens at 1:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 1.5, the fifth line of the first hexagram, is the energy to attract society, the power and the drive to stay with the creative process. Eccentricity may limit the drive, so that's kind of the negative quality of that. And then the sun moves into the sixth line in the same day. So we've gone from the fifth line to the sixth line of the first hexagram, and the movement into the sixth line happens at 11:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 1.6 is objectivity, it's clarity in creative expression, which is subject to so clarity in creative expression, but with subjectivity it leads to frustration. So the more we can be objective, the more we're going to have clarity in our creative expression. The more we become subjective, the more that we're going to experience frustration. And then on the 10th, the sun moves from the first here up to the 43rd, and the Earth moves out of the second gate, and it moves up into the 23rd. So you get that whole channel, and what that does is it gives us a defined throat and a defined ajna center. And that shift happens at 9:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 43rd gate of insight or breakthrough. In order for achievement to be maintained, a new order must be fairly established. In the first line, it's patience. New forms cannot be established until the resistance has been eliminated, and that impatience leads to a lack of depth in establishing new forms. And the 4323 is one of three polarities that form a channel. Okay, the others are the 3420 and the 3740. What this means is that on November 10th, we all are experiencing this channel of structuring, and we'll be experiencing it until November 16th. This is about individuals having amazing insights that require two conditions to be fulfilled to be recognized by others. First, the person who has an epiphany needs to wait to be invited to share his or her insight. And second, they need to explain the idea in a step-by-step process so that their audience can methodically understand how this quantum leap in thinking was arrived at. More likely, this time is going to be a time period where people are going to just blurt out whatever is on their minds without any real explanation. So I suspect that we're going to encounter more freaks than geniuses during this time period. And then the sun moves into the second line, the line of the hermit of the 43rd hexagram on the 11th of November at 8:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the sun is detrimented in the 43-2, which is keynoted as dedication, the unconscious urge for expression that will abandon its normal process when an opportunity arises. And then November 12th, the sun in the 43rd hexagram moves into the third line, the line of the martyr. This occurs at 6:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is expediency, where the condemnation, condemnation must be endured to achieve the goal of and oversensitivity to condemnation may result in failure. And then the 13th, Mars is changing gates. It's been moved. It's been with 64. It then moves down here to the 47, coming out of the Ajna center here. And then the sun moves into the fourth line of the 43rd hexagram at 4:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is described as the one-track mind, a stubborn reliance on unique insights that demands mental focus to be conceptualized, where limited knowledge and vanity lead to an expression without any depth. Then on the 14th, the sun moves into the fifth line, okay, and of the 43rd hexagram. The sun in the 43.5, that occurs at 3:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The 43.5 is progression. It's a gift in knowing when unique insight can be shared effectively with others. And then the 15th has Venus moving from this 58th gate, and it's joining Pluto up here in the 38th gate. And then the sun is also changing. It's moving into the sixth line of the 43rd gate. And the sun is exalted in the sixth line of the 43rd. This is breakthrough, unique knowing that is both personally and collectively of value. And then on the 16th, the sun moves from the 43. So we're going to lose the whole channel because the 43 and the 23 are both moving together. Keep it there. Because where is it moving? The sun is moving down here into the 14, and the earth is moving into the 8, which then gives us a defined G center. And this shift happens at 11:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 14th gate, it's the gate of power skills, possession in great measure, the accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction coupled with grace, coupling grace with control. And in the first line, it's money isn't everything. The recognition that wealth has its own problems and that the key to power is higher principles. And then November 16th brings us this channel of inspiration with the Earth in the 8th gate and Saturn in the 1st. This energy is going to be present until the 22nd, which will be a time period when people have the courage to stand out from the crowd, being their authentic self. This is very creative and is exhibited as self-expression, any kind of self-expression in their own unique way, as another individual channel. And one of the things that's very interesting, I think, about November is if you're following this, we only have definition of individual channels when we take the moon out of consideration here. But all that aside, another individual channel is a channel that brings empowerment to those who model being different and inspirational. And you can expect that people are going to be dressing a little differently from the crowd during this time period. And then the sun moves into the second line of the 14th hexagram on the 17th at 10:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 14.2 is keynoted as management, the wisdom that investing in expertise brings rewards. So it's here to delegate responsibility rather than trying to do everything individually. November 18th, Mercury now moves out of the 28, and because it's moving direct now, so it goes back into the 44, which means we no longer have the definition of the channel of struggle for a little while here. So anyway, and then the sun is in the 14th hexagram. It moves into the third line at 8:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is service, the utilization of talent and wealth for the greatest good. That power lies in selfless contribution to others, whereas selfishness fuels greed. And then the 19th, we have the sun moving into the 14th line, the line of the opportunist. The 14th hexagram, 4th line, the line of the opportunist. And this occurs at 6:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is described as security, the concentration on establishing a strong foundation, whereas overconfidence may threaten security. And then November 20th, the North Node moves from the 44 down here to the 28, which then gives us a defined route. We get our splenic center back here again, and and the sun, and of course the South Node is also moving. All right, so we've got this 24 now goes away, and the South Node moves into the 27. So anyway, the sun moves into the 5th line of the 14th hexagram. This happens at 5:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 14.5 is exalted. It's keynoted as arrogance, the ever-present risk in positions of power. The innate dignity is the key to power. And guess what? It's back! The channel has struggled. And this time we have Pluto and the North Node coming to create this definition. So we're going to feel this struggle for months. Seriously. January 31st, 2014 is when this channel will go away. It's going to be with us most of November, all of December, and just for the very last few hours of January. This brings experiences where people struggle against overwhelming odds. Again, it's the archetypal hero's journey of fighting for our purpose that empowers others by experiencing our struggle, where they're going to stubbornly fight for what holds meaning to them instead of following the conditioning that we have in life from our families and government, schools, religions. It's an individual channel again. These are all individual channels. So all these individual channels are about not hearing the others, not getting distracted from our authentic path. And the key to utilizing this energetic is that the struggle is worthwhile when you're fighting for something that has meaning and purpose in your life. And we have several months to learn from our struggles, or simply be conditioned by them. So I really recommend following your human design strategy and authority, and your purpose will unfold. And then the 21st, the sun moves into the 6th line of the 14th hexagram, up here in the line of the role model. That happens at 3:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun's exalted in the 14.6, and it's keynoted as humility, wealth and power at its most exalted, with the spirituality being the key to acceptance and also the source of power. And then on the 22nd, Venus moves out of the 38 and it moves to up here into the 54. We still have Pluto in the 38. The sun moves from the 14 to the 34. So the sun is now going to move. 34, and whenever the sun moves, the earth also moves, so it's coming out of this 27, and we'll build ourselves a heck of a channel here. All right, and when we look at that, we realize we're going to have this too. All right, and so the Earth has now moved out of the 8 which also means we no longer have this definition. So the Earth moves from the 8 up into the 20, up in the throat center. This shift happens at 1:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, wait, yes, I took that definition out, and it should really be back. Just because the other one went away didn't mean this one isn't here. I'm sorry, that was a mistake on my part. But anyway, the throat is defined as is the sacral center through this channel. If I didn't say the time, it's at 1:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's when the sun enters the 34th gate of power. The power of the great. The power is only great when its display or use serves the common good. And in the first line, the line of the investigator, this is called the bully. It's the indiscriminate use of power. And then November 22nd, what we've got here is we've got the channel of charisma. Again, another individual channel. It's going to influence us to become much busier in the now, where things we think about become experiences that we're having. You can expect folks to be deeply involved in their daily activity and unaware of the expectations of others. People are not likely to even notice how busy they are, with the possibilities of erupting spontaneously without the awareness of why. People are on their own little world, and so if you're out of sight, you might be out of mind. On the 23rd of November, Mercury moves from the 44th gate here and into the 1. And at this point, we've had this 44 for a very long time, and it finally goes away in its definition, and it moves up here into the 1, where it's joining Saturn again. And Mars moves from the 47 to the 6. And so we have Mars here in the 47, and it's moving over into the 6. This is about being open to intimacy or not. And Mars is a very sexual planet. So anyway, and right across from it is the channel of sexual strategy. So, and the sun moves into the second line of the 34, and on the 23rd, and this happens just 3 minutes after midnight on Eastern Standard Time, so correct for your time zone. The sun in the 34-2 is keynoted as momentum. Power grows when victory is in sight. But it can be limited by impatience. And the sun moving into the 30, and then the sun moves into the third line of the 34th hexagram at 10:19 p.m. Also on the 23rd in this Eastern time, which is machismo, the indiscriminate display of power that defines the role. And then the 24th, we have the sun moving into the fourth line, the line of the opportunist on the 34th hexagram. This happens at 8:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is described as triumph, the freedom in absolute victory to unlimited use of power. And so really confidence leads to subtle uses of power, whereas lack of confidence leads to abuses of power. And then the sun moves into the fifth line of the 34th hexagram at 6:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on November 25th. The sun in the fifth line is keynoted as annihilation, the total elimination of resistance. It's about using power only when necessary. The 26th has the sun moving into the sixth line of the 34 at 5:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun is exalted in the 34-6, and it's keynoted as common sense, knowing when enough is enough. So when you've bitten off more than you can chew, spit part of it out. On the 27th, the sun moves from the 34 So moving from the 34 to the 9, which with that movement, we lose this channel, we lose this definition, and then we also have that the Earth is going to move, because they always move at the same time together, and the Earth is going to move up here into the 16th gate of skills. With this change, we also have Mercury is moving from the first gate up to the 43rd gate. So it's a very busy day. The Sun-Earth shift happens at 3:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when the Sun enters into the 9th gate of focus, the taming power of the small. It's the potential that can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects. The first line, the investigative line, is the sensibility, a balanced and responsible approach to problem solving. The power to focus to avoid frustration in creating new forms. And then the Sun moves into the second line of the 9th hexagram on the 28th. This happens at 1:29 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Sun in the 9-2 is keynoted as misery loves company, collaboration that leads to focus and tempers frustration. The 29th, Venus moves from the 54 to the 61. So we have Venus here moving from the 54, and it's moving up here into the 61, up here in the head center, which is the last gate change of November. And then the Sun, it moves into the third line, the line of the martyr, in the 9th hexagram. This happens at 11:42 a.m. Eastern Time, which is its detriment. And it's keynoted as the straw that breaks the camel's back, the overlooked minor element that always predetermines failure, the power to turn focus into an obsession. And then the 30th, we have the Sun moving into the 4th line, the line of the opportunist in the 9th hexagram. This occurs at 9:54 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's described as dedication, regardless of the pressures or stress, the disciplined attention to detail. So no matter what the energies that are conditioning you during November, take some time out to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature or watching a sunrise or sunset, communing with the stars, being conscious of the moment through introspection or meditation, or being truly present with somebody you love. Because every single day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas are that beckon to distract us. We're all here given the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. Just take some time out to play, to observe the play, observe the movie, as well as act your part, because you need to remember you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the Neutrino Forecast will be for December 2013. It should be available before, but certainly on the 1st. Where we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook or YouTube, and I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. Also, we'll be discussing the transits of December 2013, and I'll be providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Orion Talk Radio, and that will occur on Monday, December 2nd. I usually get on the show about 1:30 Eastern. That'll be Eastern Daylight Time. So as always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com. If you have any questions or if you wish to schedule a reading, and I am providing readings, so if you've been thinking about getting a reading during these uncertain times, please contact me. You'll need to either be able to call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect on Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations here to keep these reports freely available. As always, I am blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application in our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste and Lakesh. And as Ra would say, love yourself. Peace.